Time to dissect these games through the eyes and the lens of the best in the business, Paul Hasleby, and we talk of the two finals. We go to Adelaide tonight. Port Adelaide are the outsiders against Hawthorn. They finished the season second and seventh. Big game tonight. Port Adelaide have been forced to make a couple of changes, of course, and their lineups look like this. Sin and Marshall in. Burton goes out, of course, with a calf. McIntyre was actually omitted. And Sarong in for Sam Frost. Paul Hasleby. Sam Frost's omission, probably not... Well, it's big for if Port Adelaide play big, but their bigs haven't been great anyway. What's your thoughts on this game?
Well, let's take a look at it. Since round 7, ranked number 1 defensively, the Hawks. So that's unbelievable. As we said, they started really slowly, but not only are they scoring, but they're very, very sound defensively. And it reminds me a little bit about the West Coast Eagles in 2015 when they had all the injuries. They just found a way with smaller type defenders, and I think it speaks volumes of what can happen as long as you don't get outmarked. That when that ball comes to ground, they are just taking off in numbers, only conceding 70.3 per game. So no Sam Frost. That makes it harder against Dixon, Marshall, Georgiades, Ratugolea. Like, they are big key forwards. But if you look in recent time, Dixon's been injured and hasn't played his best this year. Marshall's been out of the team. Georgiades has been the star and he needs to kick well. And Ratugolea has been frustrating in a sense that he leads well, he gets his hands to it, but he probably just hasn't clunked it. And he's going to get the right matchup, I believe, against Sicily, Weddle, Hardwick, Sarong. One of those has to explode and have a big game and take those marks, whether it's up the ground or closer to goal, and finish with a big bag. But if they don't mark it, they're going to be chasing tail. And we saw Blixarves last week play on Charlie Dixon. I thought it was a master move by Chris Scott that he just took off. And what happened was he just got so tired, Charlie Dixon. So when the ball came back in, he was absolutely buggered. So I expect the same from Weddle and Sicily, who they're going to have to put a bit of time into as well. But then you look at the Hawks through the midfield and also all over the ground, as you said at the start of the show, number 1 for ground ball gets. Like, they've just been incredible at winning the footy. We've spoken about their handball. So for Port Adelaide, Butters, Rosie, Horne-Francis, Wines, they need to go both ways. And there was some damning footage of them this week on the Fox Footy shows where if they don't get it right and they don't win it, it's all duck, no dinner. Against the Hawks, they will make you pay back the other way because they will roll the dice a few times themselves. So it's going to be a bit around that. The small forwards from the Hawks, we know how good they are. Watson, Ginnivan, Moore, McDonald, even Kelshadiers plays a little bit that way. But what they do is they get up the ground. They get up around stoppage. What they're trying to do is lose the defenders in transition. And if Port defenders aren't switched on and they're not communicating, they're going to find it really difficult. And without Houston, Farrell and Burton, probably 3 of their defensive leaders in that part of the ground, I think the small forwards are just going to get through too easy. A big job for Marbia Chol. I thought he was the one player that was pretty average last week, Marbia Chol. When Kelshadier was doing everything, they need more from Chol. He can be up, but he can also be down, and he needs to fight harder, particularly against Alia, who will be the intercept marker for Port Adelaide. Through the midfield, Willem Drew, you think gets the matchup on John Newcombe to take him out of the game. The ruck battle is going to be important with Meek and also Jordan Sweet. And as I said earlier, Port need to put some time into Sicily, whether it's a Burn Jones who's been playing a bit in the forward line. He's got that defensive capacity. That was where McIntyre could have played that role, and I would have gone with a smaller setup, but you live and die by the sword, and that's what Ken Hinkley's done.
So, judging by that, I think you're tipping Fremantle. Hawthorn.
Fremantle.
No, sorry. I'm looking at you through the purple eyes.
Yes, Hawthorn. I just think only a masterclass from Butters and Horne-Francis can stop them from winning.
I like Hawthorn for this very reason. Jarman, Josh, James, Jack, Josh, Jack, Jai, James, Jack. They got the J's, mate.
A lot of J's.
They got 9 J's in there.
Triple J.
Yeah,
more than
times
that.
3. All right, so Sarong in for Sam Frost. Sin and Marshall in, of course, and then Burton and McIntyre. Still to come after 7:30, Dean Cox is going to join us. Getting all sorts of questions for Cox here that they want us to ask. Okay, let's turn our attention, dissect this one. It is the game, of course, between the Giants and no change yet Brisbane. No change yet Brisbane. Bedford in for McMullen. I think that's a given. And still there is a doubt on Jack Payne. Darragh Joyce is the emergency. I've just got a feeling he'll come in.
This one, you couldn't get two teams that are different. They're so different in the way they play, polar opposites. So the Giants, we know they love to handball, the tsunami, they run through, they want to go the corridor. They're number one for metres gained from handball, but they're number 18 kicking team in the competition. Then you look at Brisbane, it's the opposite. So they're number one for kicking. They want to possess the ball. They go quickly, but they keep on kicking, trying to open up gaps and get into their forwards in a different way. But they're number 18 for handball percentage going forward. So they both defend differently. If you're Brisbane, you're going to you want to be on it. And they're not a big defensive team, Brisbane, in the way they pressure. The reason is because they're maintaining the ball all the time when they have possession. They're chipping it around, so it doesn't give them the same sort of kamikaze look as you get from the Giants. But for the Giants, they need to be onto it. Uncontested marks will be a big stat for them to try and stop Zorko and those sort of players finding those gaps through the midfield and trying to turn the ball over that way. Jesse Hogan, been amazing, won't have it all on his own terms. Of course, they've got Harris Andrews. I think through the midfield, you're going to get Toby Bedford up against Lockie Neal's played on him a couple of times. And you just wonder whether Toby Bedford was in the team last week in that last quarter. Does he play a better role on Heaney throughout the game or on Chad Warner, who got off the chain? Danaher and Hipwood really worries me. I know Morris is a good player, but I just think when you look at Buckley and Sam Taylor, how do you get past those two?
That's what I'm saying. There's the difference right there.
So it falls down onto Rayner, who's having a big second half of the season. Yes. Charlie Cameron needs to fire. Bailey hasn't had the big season like we saw last year. And Archie, I think, is going pretty well. He pops up as well. But are those four good enough to carry the pressure that's going to be there?
Probably not.
Because Danaher and Hipwood and Morris might be in for tough days.
Small backs as well. They're good north.
Whitfield, they'll try and put some pressure into Whitfield as well. Brisbane, good team, but I'm leaning towards the Giants. They're pretty good.
Same as me. And thanks to Buddha, Leon from Hocking. North Melbourne did trade pick one in 2022.
They did, yes. They went for Aaron Cadman. How are we going in the tips? Are we still going?
Yeah,
still winning
9 in front.
Unassailable?
I don't think I
it's
can
not
get
9.
Well, it's about, I'm the king, not far off.